Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine this. Sun City, California, 1980. If you picture that, you're probably thinking quiet streets, planned leisure activities, maybe competitive shuffleboard.
Right, exactly. Early bird specials, definitely.
It's a place designed, really, for peaceful retirement. But tucked away in that seemingly, well, sedate community,
Yeah.
something absolutely explosive was brewing.
Hmm.
Four women, grandmas actually, decided they weren't ready to wind down. They were ready to crank amps, shake stages, and against all expectations become a global rock phenomenon.
And what's truly fascinating here is that complete subversion of expectation. Society often attempts to put older adults in a very specific box, doesn't it?
Totally, assuming a certain pace of life, certain capabilities, a certain quietness.
Yeah, and Cherry Bomb didn't just break out of that box. They utterly demolished it with a lot of noise and glitter.
Exactly. And that's the mission of this deep dive. We have a stack of sources right here, biographies of the original members, Edna Grantham, Mabel Jones, Betty Carter, and Agnes Walsh.
We've got extensive information on the band, Cherry Bomb itself, tracing their incredible, almost improbable journey from Sun City to, well, worldwide stages.
And we have details on their current lead singer, Donna Doom, who is now carrying that defiant torch forward.
So our goal is to go beyond just summarizing these sources. We want to distill this information to understand how this seemingly unlikely group ignited a revolution.
Right, how their specific, wildly different backgrounds coalesced into this unique sound and image.
Yeah, and how they navigated their meteoric rise, which was fueled by some pretty bizarre events, honestly, and how they continue to defy expectations today, even as the lineup evolves.
So get ready, because we are going to explore stories that sound almost too wild to be true, like the time an earthquake was blamed on their volume.
Seriously, leading to international bans.
Tales of motorcycle riding guitarists, tap dancing bassists.
And yes, we promise you a whole lot of whipped cream.
Let's jump right in. Let's start right there at the beginning, setting the scene. The location is crucial. Sun City, California, back in 1980. Today it's part of Menifee, but then it really did epitomize that kind of planned, peaceful, dare we say, expected retirement lifestyle.
Right. When you thought of Sun City, you pictured relaxation, predictability. Golf carts were likely the fastest things moving down the street.
But Edna, Mabel, Betty, and Agnes weren't built for quiet predictability. They all arrived in this community seemingly by coincidence, but with personal histories that were anything but sedate.
No, they were bringing decades of bottled up energy and rebellion with them.
Absolutely. If you start to unpack their individual backgrounds, you see this common thread of fiercely independent spirits, a refusal to conform, even if they came from vastly different worlds and experiences.
Yeah, take Edna Grantham, born in Hollywood 1920. Her dad was a jazz trumpeter, her mom a silent film extra. She grew up absolutely steeped in the world of showbiz.
That glitz, that glamour, the performance it was in her DNA. She loved performing from a young age, but she wasn't just about the stage lights and red carpets, was she?
No, the sources paint a picture of someone with a kind of dual nature. She was a force on the beaches of Santa Monica and Huntington Beach, a standout surfer, a competitive volleyball player.
Wow.
Totally fearless in the waves, just as she'd later be fearless on stage. It feels like that combination of Hollywood sparkle and that, defiant, active beach spirit really defined her.
And crucially, her musical taste, while influenced by her father's jazz background, was truly ignited by early rock and roll. She wasn't just a listener, she was a serious collector.
Right, she amassed this incredible trove of early rockabilly and R&B vinyl. The sources mention her absolute prized possession, a complete set of Ricky Nelson's records.
Huh?
She even bonded with the Nelson family over Baskin-Robbins Sundays and apparently met Elvis Presley on a movie set, who nicknamed her the Glitter Girl.
The Glitter Girl. That fits perfectly. That Hollywood sparkle, that early love for rockabilly's energy and performance, her defiant beach spirit, it all just screams future rock star, doesn't it?
Totally. She brought the show business heart and the sparkle.
Then there's Mabel Jones, born in 1922, way out in Barstow, California, right there on Route 66. A completely different environment from Hollywood glamour.
Oh, yeah. Her dad ran a roadside garage working on cars. Her mom ran the diner attached to it. Mabel learned about grit, hard work, and self-reliance from the ground up.
And she soaked up the music from that diner jukebox. Not the big band, pristine pop, but the raw sounds of blues and jazz.
Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Louis Prima. Yeah. She didn't get formal lessons. She taught herself guitar on a beat-up acoustic she found in the junkyard. It was pure, raw passion driving her.
Her rebellious streak was pretty evident early on. The sources tell the story of her getting the nickname Maverick.
Yeah, for hot-wiring a teacher's car just to get to a gig she was desperate to play.
No way. That's amazing.
Right, that fierce independence, that love for the open road and freedom became absolutely central to who she was. She was collecting motorcycle parts long before she could even build or ride a bike.
And when she discovered electric guitars, specifically Gibson Les Paul, it was like finding her true voice.
Exactly. Her sound evolved, blending that gritty early blues and jazz influence with the burgeoning rockabilly scene. Eventually, she built her own Cherry Red Harley, which she iconically named Cherry Bomb.
Wow. Mabel brought the raw, rule-breaking rock energy, that iconic image of the motorcycle-riding guitarist. She was the embodiment of their defiant spirit on 6 strings, fueled by dust and diner coffee.
Absolutely.
Anchoring the rhythm section, we have Betty Carter, born in Bakersfield in 1923. Her roots were decidedly working class, surrounded by the landscape of oil rigs, but her home was also filled with music because her dad was a drummer.
Yes, and Betty was drawn to the drums immediately. She started banging on pots and pans at just 5 years old, trying to mimic her father. By 10, she was sneaking into his gigs, watching intently.
Her nickname, Boom Boom, just perfectly captured her natural style.
It really does. She got her first proper drum kit, a secondhand Ludwig, at 15, and practiced relentlessly, determined to master it.
But she faced significant resistance early on in the music scene. She absolutely refused to play soft just because she was a girl drummer in a male-dominated world.
Yeah, she got kicked out of bands for being too loud, too aggressive. But instead of discouraging her, that just fueled her determination, cementing her vow to be the loudest voice in the room with her drums.
She took that thunderous style to L.A., playing in legendary jazz clubs on Central Avenue, backing incredible artists like Lionel Hampton and Dinah Washington.
Her drumming was explosive, relentless, full of power. The sources even mentioned she painted her kit cherry red early on, and interestingly, she harbored a strong preference for chocolate whipped cream at Baskin-Robbins.
But really, chocolate.
Yeah, a detail that, believe it or not, would become significant later.
Okay, filing that away. Betty was the absolute engine of the band, the aggressive, thunderous rhythm heart. She brought the sheer power and volume that became a defining characteristic of their sound.
Definitely. And finally, the Fresno firecracker, Agnes Walsh, born in 1924. Her family ran a diner, and this is just perfect foreshadowing. It was famous for its cherry pie.
Absolutely. How could it be anything else?
I know. And like Mabel, she grew up surrounded by the music from the diner jukebox, everything from big band to R&B. Her dad was a former vaudeville performer, and he taught her tap dance and upright bass.
Tap dance and upright bass. That's a combo.
Isn't it? She picked up the bass at 12, quickly earning the nickname Aggie for her aggressive bass lines and apparently a fiery temper.
Oh.
She was drawn to the more experimental sounds, too, sneaking into underground jazz clubs to soak up bebop. Her passion wasn't limited to music. She was apparently locally renowned as the Pie Queen for her baking skills. Another strong Cherry connection. Her early vinyl collection was diverse, from Ella Fitzgerald to Glenn Miller. When she got to L.A., she played in jazz trios, some even with Cherry-themed names like the Swingin' Cherries.
Love it.
Her stage presence was already bold, often wearing cherry red dresses, and those tap dancing roots, they translated into a truly unique stage style later on. The sources even suggest she crossed paths with Edna, Mabel, and Betty years before Cherry Bomb ever formed, hinting at a shared history in the California music scene.
Interesting. So Agnes brought the deep, groovy bass lines, the entirely unique performance style integrating tap dancing, and quite literally the band's signature flavor motif. The cherries, the pie, and the whipped cream.
Exactly. So let's connect these dots. You have these 4 incredible women, Edna with the Hollywood sparkle, the rockabilly edge, and the defiant beach spirit.
Mabel with the desert rebellion, the raw guitar power, the open road freedom.
Betty with the thunderous, aggressive jazz rock rhythm and a penchant for chocolate.
And Agnes with the deep grooves, the vaudeville flair, the tap dancing, and the cherry obsession. By the late 70s, they all ended up in Sun City, seeking something different in retirement. But none of them were ready for the quiet life that community typically represented.
No way. They shared this profound mutual frustration with the quiet, expected pace of retirement. They weren't content with just bingo and bridge. They still had this incredible fire, this need to create, to make noise, to perform. They had decades of experience, passion, and unspent energy.
And it was this shared restlessness, this incredible collection of fiercely independent, talented women with diverse but ultimately complementary backgrounds in music and performance that created the perfect storm.
Yeah. Sun City wasn't the end of the road for them. It was just, unknowingly at the time, the most unlikely rehearsal space imaginable for what was about to explode.
Connecting these disparate pasts, from the glittering world of Hollywood to the dusty grit of Route 66 diners, the industrial landscape of Bakersfield oil fields, and the sweet cherry-scented air of Fresno pie shops, you see the incredibly rich and unexpected tapestry that would form the foundation of Cherry Bomb.
It's amazing. Each woman, bringing her unique thread, wove together a sound and identity that was utterly unprecedented.
And the spark that truly ignited it all, the moment that moved them from restless individuals to a unified explosive force, came on a fateful night in 1980.
Yes, according to the sources, it started innocuously enough at a community potluck in Sun City, where these four women either reconnected or met properly for the first time. But the truly pivotal, legendary moment happened afterward at the local Baskin-Robbins.
Ah, the Baskin-Robbins story. This is where the Cherry Bomb origin gets its iconic, delicious, slightly absurd beginning.
It really is. They went to the Baskin-Robbins expecting ice cream, but of course it was late, and the Baskin-Robbins had run out of ice cream flavors.
Oh, no. Disaster.
And the staff, perhaps in a moment of inspired desperation or just trying to make a sale, offered them what they did have: plain whipped cream served in ice cream cones as a substitute.
Just whipped cream in a cone.
Just whipped cream in a cone. The image is just priceless. These four women sitting there licking plain whipped cream out of waffle cones, just dissolving into hysterical laughter at the absurdity of it all.
I can picture it.
And Agnes, with her lifelong connection to cherries, apparently suggested, well, maybe if you just added some cherry syrup.
Of course she did.
Whether the cherry syrup was added right there and then, or if the idea just came from Agnes's background, the experience resonated profoundly. They looked at each other, full of laughter and whipped cream, and one of them, often cited as Edna, the showbiz one, declared they weren't just grandmas licking whipped cream, they were something else.
Something.
Something sweet, yes, but also explosive, a little dangerous. They were a cherry bomb.
And the name stuck. Cherry Bomb. It perfectly, almost magically captured their unexpected essence. It was sweet, a little mischievous, and promised an explosion.
Totally. With that name, that shared moment of unexpected delight and laughter, the spark truly caught fire. They started practicing, inevitably, in Mabel's garage in Sun City.
Naturally. Where else?
They dragged out the instruments they had brought with them, likely not expecting to use them for anything more than quiet personal enjoyment. Agnes's cherry decaled bass, Betty's cherry red drum kit, Mabel's beloved Gibson Les Paul.
And from the moment they plugged in, they just started cranking. Writing songs that weren't about typical rock and roll themes, but about their lives. Their defiance, their age, the sheer glorious chaos of their situation.
Yeah, the sound that emerged was something totally unique. You had the raw, driving energy of punk and new wave mixed with the classic rock riffs Mabel favored.
Anchored by Betty's powerful, jazz-influenced drumming and Agnes's deep, groovy, bebop-informed bass lines.
Right. All topped with Edna's surprisingly powerful, versatile vocals and Mabel's searing guitar solos.
Their first gig was, naturally, right there in the Sun City Community Center. You can only imagine this scene. The audience was likely expecting a nice afternoon of gentle music, maybe a sing-along.
Oh, it was a shock to the system. The sources talk about dentures rattling, hearing aids buzzing, the sheer volume threatening to bring the house down. The stage wasn't built for the kind of energy Betty and Agnes were putting out. It was practically shaking. It was the first clear sign to the community, and crucially to the band themselves, that they were absolutely not a typical retirement band.
They were loud, they were energetic, they were completely unapologetic, and they loved every minute of it.
This initial reception, this absolute jolt to the tranquil system of Sun City, wasn't a setback for them. It was validation. It fueled them. It showed them they had struck a chord, perhaps literally, with the unexpected, the outrageous.
They weren't just making music, they were making a statement.
Exactly. And from that garage, that first explosive gig, their rise, while chaotic, was surprisingly quick.
Yes. By 1981, less than a year after the Baskin-Robbins incident, they were already local legends. They were playing dive bars, community halls, any place that would book them across Southern California.
Their energy, their sheer audacity was infectious. People were drawn to the spectacle of four older women absolutely owning the stage.
Their style quickly became unmistakable. Forget beige cardigans. Think leather tights, elaborately teased gray hair, and A fearless, unapologetic attitude that just radiated, "We're not done yet," not by a long shot.
They weren't trying to recapture youth. They were celebrating who they were, turning the volume up.
And that Baskin-Robbins moment, that shared laugh over whipped cream, evolved into a signature stage ritual. They started tossing whipped cream cones into the crowd during their shows.
Playful, messy, and utterly unique to them. It encapsulated their spirit of sweet rebellion and unexpected indulgence.
You could also see the individual flair really starting to emerge on stage. Edna embracing the glamour, leading the charge. Mabel, the maverick, with her leather, her attitude, and her guitar.
Betty pounding away with thunderous power. Agnes grooving, her feet starting to move, incorporating those tap dance moves she learned from her dad into her bass solos.
Amazing. All this burgeoning energy and local fame culminated in their biggest break in 1984, a gig at the legendary Hollywood Bowl.
Wow, the Hollywood Bowl.
They were booked as an opening act for a rumored major rock act. Some sources say Joan Jett, others mention different names, but regardless, it was a massive stage, a huge opportunity.
And they brought the full, unadulterated cherry bomb spectacle to the Hollywood Bowl. Amps were pushed past their limits, lights flared. There might have even been early pyrotechnics, according to some mentions.
Edna's powerhouse vocals were hitting notes that seemed to literally vibrate the venue. Mabel was unleashing searing, distorted riffs.
Betty's drumming was a thunderous, relentless assault, and Agnes's bass was deep, rumbling, a physical force.
And then mid-set, in the middle of their explosive anthem, Cherry Bomb, the ground beneath the Hollywood Bowl started to tremble.
Whoa.
Initially, people in the audience thought it was part of the show, a special effect to accompany the band's intensity. The bass was that powerful, the drums that loud.
I could see that.
But it wasn't. The shaking escalated rapidly into a genuine, significant earthquake, a 6.6 magnitude trembler later dubbed the Cherry Quake by the media. The entire Hollywood Bowl had to be evacuated in the ensuing chaos.
A 6.6 during their set. That's unbelievable.
Right, and the band. Their reactions immediately became legendary, adding another layer to their mythos.
Oh, I bet. What did they do?
Edna, utterly unfazed, grabbed the mic and joked, "Don't worry, folks, that was just my high note."
Classic Edna.
Betty, always focused on her drumming, claimed, "My bass drum just woke the earth up."
Nice.
Mabel, the maverick through and through, coolly declared, "If the ground's going to shake, it's going to shake to my beat."
Love it.
And Agnes, ever the dancer, summed it up by saying, "My bass just told the earth to dance."
Perfect. Just perfect reactions from all of them.
This event, while seismologists quickly confirmed it was a geological coincidence unrelated to sound waves, immediately entered the cherry bomb mythology. The media ran wild with the story, sensationalizing it, actually blaming the band's dangerously loud and geologically disruptive performance for inciting seismic chaos.
They actually blamed the band for the earthquake. Seriously.
Seriously, which, almost unbelievably, led to a bizarre municipal ordinance being passed that effectively enacted a U.S. ban on cherry bomb performances. Can you imagine being told your rock and roll was too powerful, too loud, that it literally shook the earth and was thus unwelcome?
That is utterly absurd. But, for Cherry Bomb, it was kind of perfect, wasn't it?
Totally. It cemented their image as dangerous as outlaw. Edna embraced the status immediately, declaring with a mischievous grin, "Well, if we're too much for America, I guess the rest of the world is ready for us."
And Betty, ever defiant, famously painted "banned but booming" right on her bass drum head.
I love that. And Mabel, being Mabel, rode her cherry red Harley right down to the port of Los Angeles as they prepared to leave the country, a perfect visual metaphor for their exile.
Wow. This incident, whether a spectacular coincidental event or something more mystically tied to their energy, defined them. It propelled them from being rock and roll outliers to genuine rock and roll legends.
And being banned from their home country didn't stop them. It simply opened up a new, global phase of their career.
Yeah, the U.S. ban, while frustrating initially, inadvertently became the best thing that could have happened to them commercially in the long run. It forced them to look overseas, where they discovered an incredibly enthusiastic, open-minded, and, dare we say, rabid fan base waiting for them.
Exactly. They found this passionate reception, particularly in Europe and Japan. They went from playing Southern California dive bars to selling out gritty punk clubs in London and huge arenas in Tokyo.
The band didn't slow them down. It gave them a new international stage.
And their stage show didn't just maintain its energy. It continued to evolve and become even more spectacular. That whipped cream cone toss, it became a full-blown ritual with them spraying whipped cream, often from cannons or custom rigs, into the crowd.
Oh, man. And Mabel rigged her guitar to shoot sparks during her solos, literally adding fire to her performance.
And sparks from the guitar. And Betty, the undisputed queen of chocolate, took her whipped cream preference to the next level. She famously rigged her drum kit to spray chocolate whipped cream during her thunderous solos.
Chocolate whipped cream from the drums, that's dedication.
It caused some playful tension with the rest of the band, who mostly stuck to vanilla, but the crowd absolutely loved it. She became known as Thunder Granny in Japan for her sheer power and the chocolate spray.
Thunder Granny.
Agnes's tap dance bass solos became massive fan favorites, especially in Tokyo, where fans affectionately dubbed her the Cherry Goddess. She started tossing cherry lollipops to the crowd during her solos, adding a sweet, personal touch.
The Cherry Goddess, that's fantastic. And Edna, fully embodying her granny glitter persona, became a cultural phenomenon, sometimes even making her entrance by surfing onto stages on a prop surfboard.
A prop surfboard. A callback to her fearless beach days, right?
Exactly. They were incredibly prolific during this period overseas. They released cult classic albums like Whipped Cream Dreams in 1986 and Granny's Gonna Get Ya in 1988.
Their sound on these records was raw, energetic rock. But the lyrics were uniquely cherry bomb cheeky, defiant, celebratory of aging rebellion, and pure, unadulterated indulgence.
They weren't trying to fit in, they were singing their story, their anthems, and you really see the individual personalities absolutely exploding on the global stage during this time.
Edna's Granny Glitter status wasn't just a nickname, it was a cultural phenomenon. She even traveled with her prized Ricky Nelson vinyl collection. Her connection to early rock always with her.
And Mabel's Maverick persona became iconic globally, riding her cherry red Harley onto stages, the spark-shooting guitar, even tossing whipped cream while shredding a solo. It was pure rock and roll theater.
Betty, Thunder Granny in Japan, renowned for her loud drum rolls and that signature chocolate whipped cream spraying kit. She even brought a portable turntable on tour just so she could listen to her Ricky Nelson's Garden Party record.
Really? That's such a great detail. It speaks to her blend of powerful performance and personal passion.
Totally. And Agnes, the Cherry Goddess, those mesmerizing tap dance bass solos, the lollipops, her beloved cherry decaled bass always by her side. Each member had these signature elements that fans latched onto.
This intense globe-trotting period also saw the first personnel changes, which is inevitable for a band rocking this hard for this long, especially, with the ages involved.
Right, yes. The first shift came in 1987. Agnes had to retire at 63 due to severe arthritis. The sources say it had become too painful for her hands to slap the bass with the intensity her style required.
That's tough. But necessary, I guess.
Yeah. She didn't just leave a void, though. She passed her cherry decaled bass, or rather, the torch, to Wild Wanda Lee. The sources mentioned Wanda Lee was a former roller derby star.
A roller derby star playing bass. Okay, that tells you she brought a whole new high-impact energy to the rhythm section.
Exactly. Then in 1992, another departure. Betty Boom Boom Carter left. And this one is classic cherry bomb absurdity. It was reportedly due to a heated dispute over the whipped cream.
The whipped cream again? Seriously?
Seriously. Betty, the chocolate purist, clashed with the rest of the band, who preferred a unified vanilla aesthetic for the stage show.
Oh my God. Her quote about it is absolutely perfect. I'm boom boom, not blend in.
Isn't it great? She wasn't compromising on her chocolate. She left and was replaced on drums by Thunder Thelma Thompson.
Wow. Through these changes, though, Mabel and Edna remained the absolute constants. Their original chemistry, that initial spark from the Sun City potluck, anchored the band.
It allowed Cherry Bomb to absorb new energy and perspectives while retaining its core grit, its defiant spirit.
Despite these shifts, the band kept going, cementing their status as global icons, even if they were still viewed as slightly underground or mythical back home. Boo to the band.
That U.S. ban, which seemed so bizarre at the time, finally lifted in 2000.
Took long enough.
Right. The sources credit a passionate, long-running fan campaign and, tellingly, Edna's signature wit. She gave a tongue-in-cheek apology where she deadpanned that the earthquake was just our rhythm section getting warmed up.
Brilliant. Just brilliant. And their return to the U.S. was nothing short of triumphant. They immediately began headlining major festivals, including a truly memorable set at Coachella.
Coachella, where, incredibly, Betty Boom Boom Carter even rejoined them for that one-off performance.
No way. Betty came back for Coachella.
She did. Sources say her drum solo during that set got a massive, roaring standing ovation. Edna was there leading the charge with her now iconic surfboard-shaped mic stand, and Mabel rode her cherry red Harley right onto the stage.
Oh, that must have been an incredible moment. Full circle validation.
Totally. And they weren't just resting on their legendary status either. That same year, 2000, they released a new album, Back to Blow You Away, signaling that their energy was far from depleted.
Still got it. Their shows back in the U.S. continued the glorious chaos they perfected overseas pyrotechnics, copious amounts of whipped cream sprayed into the crowd.
And they added a new tradition of handing out cherry-flavored lollipops, a nod back to Agnes.
Nice touch. But as the years went on, more changes were inevitable. In 2010, Mabel retired at the age of 88.
Wow, 88. Still rocking up till then.
Incredible. The sources say it was due to arthritis finally catching up, her hands needing a break from the strings.
Understandable. She didn't stop playing entirely, but she passed her beloved cherry red guitar to Razor Rita Reynolds. Rita was a young prodigy who the band had actually mentored for years.
Okay, so that was a significant moment. It cemented Cherry Bomb as a truly multi-generational band, blending the original grit of Edna and, well, the spirit of Mabel with younger energy and talent.
Yes, these lineup changes, while sometimes prompted by age or health, became a way that the band stayed fresh, stayed relevant. Edna's unwavering presence, her energy and charisma was the glue that held it all together through these transitions.
Absolutely. Through it all, they became incredibly potent icons for defying ageism. Their mantra wasn't just a catchy phrase. Rock till you drop was how they lived.
They showed the world that passion, energy, and the desire to make noise have no expiration date.
Which brings us right up to the modern era, the 2020s. In 2020, as they were hitting their 40th anniversary, they faced a true tragedy. Betty Boom Boom Carter, the powerhouse drummer, passed away at the age of 98.
98, what a loss. A massive loss to the rock world.
Yeah, truly. They quickly found a new drummer, Dynamite Dee Jackson, who stepped into incredibly big shoes with respect and her own powerful style.
Then, like every other band in the world, the pandemic hit, forcing them to adapt. Ever the rebels, they pivoted to virtual concerts, doing live streams right from a backyard stage in Menifee.
A backyard stage, and they didn't tone it down for the live stream, did they?
Not a chance. They brought the full show, the whipped cream fights, the pyrotechnics, the sheer energy. It was chaotic, authentic, and surprisingly, it gained them a whole new generation of fans online who discovered this legendary band through the internet.
That's amazing, finding new fans during lockdown.
But then, in 2024, the unthinkable happened.
Yeah.
Edna Granny Grantham, the heart, the soul, the incomparable leader of Cherry Bomb, passed away at the age of 104.
Oh, man. 104. That just, it left a massive void, a silence that felt impossible to fill.
It did, but the band had been preparing for this moment, in a way. Donna Delgado, known to fans as Donna Doom on stage, had been a longtime backup vocalist and, crucially, Edna's protege.
Right, Donna Doom. She was the natural, chosen person to step into the lead role.
Donna's story is actually deeply intertwined with Cherry Bomb from the very beginning. She was born in Sun City, Menifee herself in 1957, just down the road from where the magic started.
Wow, really? Born right there.
Yeah. Her upbringing had a similar blend of discipline and rebellion we saw in the originals. Her mom was a teacher, her dad a mechanic. She grew up singing in her dad's garage, idolizing those same early rockabilly artists that influenced Edna, Ricky Nelson, Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran.
So she had that same musical DNA, basically.
She did. She had her own garage band, the Desert Sirens, and she definitely dreamed bigger than the quiet life of Menifee, riding her dad's Triumph motorcycle out to places like Salt Creek Trail, feeling that pull of the open road that Mabel knew so well.
And she was there from the very start. She saw Cherry Bomb play that very first year in 1980 when she was just 23.
Completely blown away by these women. And after the show, she caught Edna's whipped cream cone, a literal passing of the torch moment even then, though neither of them knew it.
Whoa. Caught the cone. And she met Edna that night.
Yep, met Edna, who saw that spark, that energy in young Donna. Edna gave her a cherry red scarf and told her simply, "Keep singing, kiddo."
Keep singing, kiddo. Wow.
Donna became a superfan, followed them religiously, and was even in the front row at the Hollywood Bowl during the 1984 Cherry Quake.
Front row for the quake. Okay, she was destined for this.
Seems like it. When the band got banned, Donna didn't just sit by. She channeled that frustration and inspiration into forming her own punk band, Deadly Daggers, playing the LA underground scene.
Deadly Daggers, nice.
But her path, almost fatedly, led her back to Cherry Bomb. In 1987, after Agnes retired, Edna remembered that spark and invited Donna to audition, not for bass, but as a backup vocalist.
Ah, so that's how she officially joined. She joined the band, touring overseas with them, harmonizing with Edna, learning her stagecraft, her philosophy.
Edna truly took her under her wing, mentored her, treated her like family, sharing stories about meeting Ricky Nelson and even Elvis. Donna was absorbing decades of rock and roll history and performance wisdom directly from the source.
That's incredible mentorship. Donna steadily rose through the ranks within the band. She earned her stage name, Donna Doom, with her powerful, slightly smoky backup vocals and her commanding stage presence.
She even